Okay, do I have to give you the power, Charlie, if you want to present?
Well, I've just shared my screen. It's loading, so you should be able to see it now. Okay, so basically we just...
say, can everyone just mute their microphones? And if you've got any questions, can you just kind of wait until the end? Otherwise it becomes a bit...
Yeah, I've got a slide for questions. Don't worry. We can have a chat. I mean, it's a presentation, it's a discussion as well. There's different ways to use a Mandat de Recherche, but basically the idea is we're pushing with this now because, well, there's less mandates. We hope there's more mandates to come, but we really want to see the mandate, the Mandat de Recherche, as a document to get through the door when you can't get a mandat de vente. That's the idea, and we want you to think on your feet, which you already do. Plan A is obviously mandat de vente, but Plan B is mandat de recherche. So that can be. So this is the agenda. So why we're using it? It's a bit of an agenda, primary goals, timeline, and William's done a little video. I'm going to play it later, and just to show you how to use a mandat de recherche, which is much easier with STI, I believe. First of all, a few numbers. Leggett Immobilier have done 45 mandat de recherche over Q4, which is basically 15 a month. I think it's like 17 October, 13 November, and 15 December, which is nothing basically. We're talking one per team, roughly. The thing is about the mandat de recherche is we want to use it on a legal way point of view to get through the door when we haven't got a mandat de vente. The bond visit is attached to the mandat de recherche, yeah, just like it is attached to a mandat de vente. So the mandat de recherche has a number. You're going to put that number on the bond visit. But we also want to use the mandat de recherche in a more like cultural approach, and like for prospection, there'll be a bit of bluff involved, and you're really going to use the mandat de recherche to attack calls with vendors in a prospection boost, and say to the vendors, I've got a mandat de recherche with my buyers, and I think that's psychologically that's going to help you attack the calls. So that's the idea. Also, other agencies calling us on intercabinet 50-50, they always call and say, I have a mandat de recherche with my buyers. Whether that's true or not, we don't know, but it's more of a confidence thing. It's more to tell us that they've got that relationship secured with the buyers. And I'm pretty certain they do the same thing when they call vendors, because either the vendors or the partner agency will be thinking, oh, the buyers will go through them and we won't get those buyers directly. Does that make sense? Sorry, you're all muted, so we'll see at the end if you like, if it's easier. So we want you to see the mandat de recherche as a facilitator, not a barrier. So see it very simply as a way to get through the door when you can't get a mandat de vente. Maybe the property is on a mandat simple with too many agencies. They don't want other agencies. Maybe they're simply off market, or maybe they're not even thinking about selling yet. We were just talking with Kevin about you adding the properties on STA as draft as a draft at the moment, so we can do that. You can create properties that are not going live because leave them as a property. Basically, you don't have to attack. There's no mandate at that stage, but you can have a selection of properties you can view with a mandat de recherche, basically. So yeah, psychological approach. We can touch on that later if you've got any ideas. Hit the phone and knock on the door with confidence. I think whether you're knocking on the door in a street or whether you're calling, doing prospection, if you tell them that you have a mandat de recherche, if you give names out, even if you haven't got this, there'll always be a bit of bluff involved. That will help you for your call, and then you can go back to the buyers and say, to view this property with me, basically it's off market, I've got it on before anyone, you need to sign the mandat de recherche. Yeah. Okay, so one-off viewings, off-market property searches. If you've got buyers, I mean, the mandat de recherche exclusive entice something much more complicated, I think, and that will be on high-end areas, and it will be Mandat de Recherche exclusive over 3 months. I don't think this is what we need to do here. I think we need to go on a Mandat de Recherche simple, see it as your plan B. When you haven't got a Mandat de Vente, turn around to it and say, look, say to your buyers, we can do this property with a Mandat de Recherche, sign this paper for me, yeah? So I think it's going to get you more viewings. Viewings equals sales. I think it's going to get you, help you with prospection, but also get you more mandates. So it's a bit of a weird slide. It's going to get you mandates because once you're through the door, let's say you viewed Madame Dupont's property with a Mandat de Recherche because she didn't want to sign the Mandat de Vente. She's seen how professional you are. You're through the door, and you can turn around and say, listen, I've got more buyers. J'ai d'autres acquéreurs. And at this stage, she might sign a Mandat de Vente. So I think that's the idea, really, to get through the door. We're creating a brochure with marketing. I'd like to speak to you about this, Kevin, because it's to be honest with you, it's a bit complicated because the Mandat de Recherche is not an easy subject because different areas work differently. I know Paris solely want to work on a Mandat de Recherche exclusive. So let me know how you want this brochure to look like. But basically, the idea is just to so the buyers understand that it's not they don't owe us any commission if they don't buy through us. Yeah. We also have a Mandat de Recherche translation on the resources side. So if you just put English Mandat de Recherche, we have a translation on there. If you have British buyers. This is just a bit of a timeline. Can you see that? Yeah, it's a bit. I can only see it. Yeah, it's just, well, we started the project. We want people with 100 users in the next 6 months. I think sometimes it will be hard for us to track how many Mandat de Recherche, how much potential. It'll be like apporteur d'affaires. It's not, sometimes you'll have apporteur d'affaires that haven't got a serial number and you'll be talking to them directly. But it'll be the same thing with the Mandat de Recherche. Sometimes you'll end up selling the property with a Mandat de Vente or viewing it with a Mandat de Vente. So it's very hard to track what we're doing. But the idea is, we want all the agents to think about it and have it as in their head. Morning. Sorry. So William's going to do a little presentation. I've got this somewhere else. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. It should be good. Isn't this working? It's timed out. Can you see my screen? Yeah, Kevin?
Yeah, I can see the screen, but there's no sound.
No, it's just that's it.
In order to create a Mandat de Recherche, you need to be on the
Sorry, I'll
client's.
start it again just to make sure.
In order to create a Mandat de Recherche, you need to be on the client's page, then click on the Mandates tab. From there, you can create a mandate for this client. Select Client, then the mandate type, Mandat de Recherche. Next. You can add other clients later, so next again. Here, add the search description. The designation has to be specific to the client's criteria, but not too specific in that it locks you out of a search. Minimum price, click in the empty space. A maximum price, click again in the empty space. Now select the source that the mandate came from and a duration for your mandate. Click on the Summary Before Creation button, then confirm the mandate creation. From here, you can add other clients in the Clients tab. You can either create them or you can search for them if they already exist in Hestia.
John Travolta.
Once you're happy with the content in your Mandat de Recherche, you can use the yellow edit pencil and then the drop down to change the status from draft to ready for a PDF or e-mandate ready for a DocuSign. From there, the mandates team will send and receive the Mandat de Recherche for you. confirm the modifications, and you're done.
Okay. We stop sharing our soupy screen. Sorry, I'm just going back to this. Okay. I'll send you that. Just wanted to show you as well the I'll send you the translation as well because we've had people ask for this. Sorry, I've lost it. Okay, I'm good now. Can you see the presentation again? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got an email address. If you've got any questions, just email them at mdr@legate.fr. So I'll be picking these up. Just going back. Yeah, I'll send you a few things. So yes, if on the brochure, just Kevin, let me know what you want. How do you think it can help? It's something we want to give the agents to give to the buyers, when needs be, to make the Mandat de Recherche, to help them swallow it a little bit. So it's not too heavy. They understand what they're signing, because it will come up that they will ask. This is how much turnover we want to do next year and the year after on Mandat de Recherche. But again, it's very hard to track. So that's the idea. Sorry, basically, is to see it as a plan B when you haven't got a Mandat de Vente, to just get viewings, get through the door. Does that make sense? Or
Charlie, I have a question.
Understand that?
yes, Alison.
Yeah, basically, obviously, when we get clients visiting, they can be set an itinerary from head office. So we might have a bit of contact with them before, but not much until they're on the visit. By the time they come over to our area, they've probably already seen 3 or 4 different agents, probably had this conversation with those agents. So if all 4 of us say there's 4 different agents doing visits with them over a 2-week period,
Yeah.
and we're all offering them this Mandat de Recherche, and they pick one agent to do the Mandat de Recherche with, how are we going to actually know, other than keep going on that client's page? Because I do a visit with a client, and if they're not interested in my house, I haven't got time to keep going back to that client.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But first of all, it's one Mandat de Recherche per client, obviously.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's the agent. So if I've got 4 agents in 1 week seeing one client, and the client says, oh yes, that'd be a good idea, we'll do a Mandat de Recherche.
Yeah.
And then all 4 agents go on Hestia to put in a Mandat de Recherche, all at the same time maybe. How are we going to manage that? Or do you think that's not going to happen?
Well, it's
You just would use the same, no?
Sorry?
well, it'd be the first one. This is exactly so. Alison, this is exactly like, let's say 4 Legate agents were to go to the same vendor the same day.
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
Not in my neck of the woods.
No, but
I think, Alison, they can all use the same, as long as the first person that's done the mandat, they can all use that mandat subsequently, and you'll be able to see whether that client has had a Mandat de Recherche assigned to them.
Straight away,
Hestia, because it'll just be the mandat.
I understand that, Kevin. I understand totally where you're coming from, but we all know that on Hestia, if there is a client and we can't find it, or it's not quite right, so many agents are putting in that client more than once. So there are duplicate clients popping up all the time in Hestia at the moment.
Well, if it's a separate record in Hestia, then perhaps do a separate Mandat de Recherche. I didn't say that.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'd like to think mandates will spot it if there's a doublon, but if not, I mean, it can happen. It can happen, but.
If it's an itinerary set by head office, then the link to that client should be coming through with the itinerary.
To everybody, yeah.
I think there's another issue, maybe if I may, even if there has been a lot of pointing out of issues lately, that a lot of the clients that we get from head office, they are one client file for a couple, for example. So there will be Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They will actually have one client file, which is strictly speaking not the correct way of using Hestia, but that is often how they are made, because like that you have all the information of the client in one file. But if we're going to make a Mandat de Recherche, you're going to have not the right fields and the right things, and legally it wouldn't really add up. So I think that could make it potentially also that people would create.
I think that, Kevin, if you remember the AC meeting, William came up with me to do the presentation, and he said that we're more flexible regarding information, especially with the client's name, than we are, and obviously on the Mandat de Vente with the vendor. So we can start with one buyer, for example, and then add the other buyer later. I think simply because when we do a Mandat de Vente, the property goes on market and obviously it's advertised everywhere. Whereas a Mandat de Recherche, at this stage, while they're looking, it's still a bit of paper, you know, before we find them a property. So there's more flexibility. But I understand what you're saying, William, regarding doubling up and
But does that mean that we can use a client file that has Mr. and Mrs. Smith on the same file, that we can use that and put the Mandat de Recherche on that one?
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, they shouldn't, in theory, they shouldn't be doing that. Are these new clients that are being entered, or are these old clients?
On the ground. Does it make sense? Yeah. I mean, do you do it already a little bit, or?
I've done it a few
I did
times.
Okay. I mean, it's way around, doing a viewing for a start, and also changing the approach of prospection, just going out there and saying, I have a Mandat de Recherche with my buyers, securing the relationship. And I know, it's same with inter-agence. When you call another agency to do a 50-50 split, you can say to them, I have a Mandat de Recherche with my buyers. Are you okay? Est-ce que vous êtes d'accord pour faire de l'inter-agence, inter-cabinet? Do you do many sales on inter-agence with other partners, or?
There's a couple of agents who've done a lot. They do a lot with a kind of relationship with the notaire.
Oh, okay.
But not so much with other agents. You've done a few in your neck of the woods, haven't you, Alison?
Yeah, remember Alison with Auvergne Properties, and what was his name? Jean.
There was a couple that we did, but she's pulled out now. She's not doing it so much because obviously she needs the mandates and she needs the business herself, and she's not willing to share so much. So
I remember when
I think I've got one property left.
Was it Auvergne Frederica, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Auvergne Properties. But the thing is, when we were doing partners a lot, like 5 years ago, it wasn't the same. There was so many more properties, and agencies would just give us their stock and. Well, if you got any questions,
I think it's going to change this year. I think there will be more properties coming onto the market and fewer clients. But I mean, for the time being, I think there's still going to be a kind of shortage of mandates. But over the next few months, I think the balance will start to slightly shift.
I mean, in this area, I look at Le Bon Coin every morning, and you can tell that there are more properties coming on. Definitely. I mean, for last year, there was nothing coming on. But since early Jan, there are properties there. They are coming on. So I mean, hopefully that's good news. If you got just let me know. Have you got questions about Apporteur d'Affaires as well, maybe, or is that all clear?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for some. I've got to speak to Benedict later on today. I'm waiting for some stats, hopefully, on how many Apporteur d'Affaires we've got per agent, which ones are producing sales, what type of Apporteur d'Affaires works best, all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm having to do all that kind of stuff manually. So
I saw your email.
Later on, I think.
Well, it's the same thing. It's hard to track because technically, if the apporteur hasn't got the contact, the network person hasn't got a numéro ciré, you can still work with them.
Yeah.
It's just hand in hand cash. It doesn't go through legged accounts. If anything, you probably end up giving them less, than 5%, which is what the contract. I think the contract starts at 5%. But if you give them something you have a deal directly with them, you can probably save money like that. But yeah, if they prefer having a contract, some people might be scared by the contract. So yeah.
I think that's a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, just another thing. I would like to have some ideas of how to actually propose this to people in our area. You know, because we have the clients that come in. I know Mariska has a lot of clients that come in and stick with her, the same as Greek does. She has a lot of clients that come to her area that stick with her. But I think they might need some sort of guidance of how to actually tap on the door, knock on the door of a vendor and propose it to them, because obviously we can't always find the houses. They might say to us, this is the house that we want to have a look at, but without going directly to the agency, and the agencies in this area in the past have not been forthcoming, we can't always find where the house is located.
Okay, so you want to know how to, let's say you've got buyers and they've seen a property.
Yep.
And you obviously you're going to try and find the property.
Yeah, but that could be very difficult in the middle of the countryside.
Yeah. So what's the question then?
Well, the question is, we go to the agency. I've done this before, where I've gone to the agency and the agency have blown me out and said if they want, the client wants to see the house, the client can go directly to them. So to get the Mandat de Recherche, we have to go to the vendor.
Yes,
basically.
basically.
We've got the Mandat de Recherche with the client, so we have to go to the vendor, knock on the door and say, we've got this client. We can't find the property, so how are we going to do this side of it? And that's what I'm saying. The agents that are on my team at the moment will need some guidance of how to push that forward, and some sort of training. If anybody's done it already, just ideas of what they've already done and how they've done it and how they found those properties.
Yeah, I mean, that's, if you can't,
I see what you're saying now. Okay.
If the agency doesn't want to play ball and you can't find the house, then there's nothing you can do.
Oh, you want guidance on how to find the property physically.
I think that's what she's saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good point actually. Wasn't there training like this? Like people were looking at swimming pools on Google Earth and everything, stuff like this.
Yeah, and looking at roof lines and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's very hard. I mean, there's properties. I've been in the same village nearly all my life, and there's properties that come up on Le Bon Coin. I've never seen them, so it's not easy. But is that what you're asking for? I could ask Jarina about that, like tricks and ways of finding properties and knocking directly on the door.
I think that would be quite useful, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, Jarina. Okay. Finding properties. Okay. I thought your question was something else, but which I can touch. If the property is on exclusive with another agency, your Mandat de Recherche, you can't view the property with a Mandat de Recherche anyway. So exclusive locks out the competition completely. The only thing you can do is call the other agency and ask them if they want to split their fee. Hopefully 50-50. Hopefully they say yes. Sometimes they'll ask for 60-40. The other solution, which the boys in Bordeaux do, it might be easier and on the iron market, is sometimes there's two commissions. So let's say the partner, let's say other end properties, for example, they say, no, we don't want to share the fee. And you can then go back to the buyer, and the buyer can pay, well, there'll be two fees. That works as long as the mandat de vente of the other agency is charge vendeur, yeah? Because our mandat de recherche is charge acquéreur, and the notaire will let it go through if it's charge vendeur and charge acquéreur. I mean, this is a bit of, it doesn't happen often, but it is a solution if needs be. We have seen it.
Yeah, I think that might be a bit of a stretch for most of the houses around here.
Yeah, no, but
I don't want to pay one lot of agency fee, let alone two.
Yeah, loan two. But what the guys in Bordeaux do is they drop their fees. So in the end, they drop their fee for the buyers and they explain it. Yeah. Ways of finding property countryside. I mean cities as well. I mean, must be not easy to find anywhere. Okay, any more questions on this?
if you've got any more questions, then whack them over to me, and I'll kind of put them all together, and I'll send it over to Charlie, and we can do like a kind of FAQ if there's a load of stuff. But, and then I'll do this video I said about earlier with the kind of property status in Hestia and how that would link up to potentially doing a Mandat de Recherche.
I think it was Alison. I'm going to see Jarina about this. I'm going to ask her. I'm going to send you my details as well and William's way of creating a Mandat de Recherche. If you've got any questions about partners, apporteurs, Mandat de Recherche, anything, just give me a call, yeah? Email me.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, it's Liz here. Just a quick question on apporteur d'affaires. When we get an apporteur d'affaires, will we be able to actually put the name into Hestia? Because I have had a sort of couple of potential possibilities, but they wouldn't necessarily be my mandate. So then it gets really complicated about remembering who was the even if it says apporteur d'affaires, you don't know who actually should get that commission. And
right.
if an agent leaves or whatever, I just think, I don't know why we don't actually name the apporteur d'affaires in Hestia so that it's really cleared and can be tracked really easily. And I think everyone would be helped by just having that information.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I suppose you could always put it in notes or somewhere, but yeah, it'd be easier if they had a tab for it. I get that.
Yeah, I think ideally the plan is that there will be another way, instead of creating property mandate client, you will also be able to create a apporteur d'affaires in Hestia and then link your apporteur d'affaires, put all the details in Hestia, do an e-contract so you don't have to mess around with all this paperwork and databases, and then just link that apporteur d'affaires to a property, and then that's kind of done. You don't have to worry about the commission and stuff. But that all has to be coded, and there's a limited amount of coders, and there's a limited amount of time, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, at the moment it's a separate database for apporteur d'affaires, but obviously, yeah, it should be linked to it where you can just select on the apporteur d'affaires.
Yeah. And then hopefully, because I know, Liz, I think you said something about you don't know whether they've been paid or not. So that can be.
Is that from an accountancy point of view?
Yeah. I don't think the agents get told when a check's gone out to an apporteur d'affaires.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would be really helpful, because I know Carl was suggesting that we can take them as check as this great surprise, but they have to send an invoice, so there is no surprise. So I think it was just about making that part of the process much clearer. And then yes, if the agent can be automatically informed, like we are when a diagnostic refund is paid, then that just means you know where you stand.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, hopefully it will kind of be pushed up the agenda because it's theoretically one of the things we're supposed to be pushing this year.
Well, it's the comms database, isn't it? Yeah, which they are redoing it, which is very archaic at the moment. To be honest with you, it's really not easy to work with. But yeah, I think but I think that will come into it anyway.
Yeah.
And can I just ask? I think about on a weekly basis we get that reminder thing sent out on apporteur d'affaires, but it doesn't tell you anything other than it just says apporteur d'affaires. If you suddenly think, oh yeah, I do have someone, it'd be really helpful if attached to it was the contract and the process, just as a reminder, because I think if you actually want it, it's there then every time.
Contract plus process. Okay. Ask Ben. Benson's ask him to. Does he send that every week? Yeah, I've seen it a few times.
Yeah, it comes out a lot and it gets deleted a lot because it doesn't help you.
Yeah, okay. I'll tell him to put a bit of meat on there. Not just.
And you read it every time, Liz?
Oh, every time.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, contract process plus process on there. Okay, invoice close. Okay.
Okay, anything else before we move on to Leanne?
Is Leanne here?
She was earlier.
I am, yes.
Hi, Leanne.
Hello.
Okay, so yeah, any questions, whack them over to me.
Yeah, I'll drop you an email. Just give me a call, yeah?
Yeah, or email Charlie direct. And Leanne's going to talk about floor planning. There is good stuff.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Leanne.
See you, Charlie.
Bye, Charlie.
Hand over to you, Leanne.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I don't think I've had an opportunity to meet all of you before. There's some familiar faces from induction training, but my name's Leanne. I work in the training department. I've got two very exciting topics to just go over with you today. So I hope you've got strong coffees and you're ready for this. So I'm going to be talking about the ERP because I know that we've had some legislation changes recently. I've been an agent over around 20 years now, on and off, and I've certainly had lots of legislation changes happen, and really it can be difficult. It can be something else that we have to adapt to as an agent, and unfortunately with the ERP it does mean that we need to look at providing a little bit of extra paperwork when it comes to viewing. So I thought it was really important. Anna Sirenidis and I put together this presentation just so everyone's really comfortable with what the ERP is, what it actually means, and most importantly, just what you guys need to do on the first viewing, essentially. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible for you to put into your general processes. After that, I'm going to talk to you about floor plans. I love floor plans, and I want to be able to offer you some training on that. So if that is something that you're interested in doing, I was trained in floor plans. I always used to do them when I was an agent, and we've got some really excellent software at Leggett that is free. So I'm happy to show you guys how to use that. So covering two topics, I'll start with the ERP. And end with the really exciting floor planning. So I'll just see if I can share my screen, just so let's have a quick look. Okay, so it's just loading. And if you've got any questions at any point, please do feel free to stop me. Can you see that presentation, the Mandat de Recherche? Is that showing on the screen? Wonderful. Okie dokie. So do stop me if you've got any questions, or you can pop a question in the chat and then I can come back to it and answer you. So what is the ERP? As we know, this got rolled out and changes were made on the 1st of January. So in a nutshell, it is basically a risk assessment for natural risks, pollution. It's part of the diagnostics, and they have now decided that that section of the diagnostics report needs to be available to buyers or tenants from the first viewing. So the slides I will share with you afterwards. I've got them in French and in English, so everyone can have a copy of that if you want to refer back. So with this presentation, we have had it run through the legal department so that we're really clear and have understood what the technicalities are and really the bottom line of what your responsibilities are or are not in this situation, because that's all we really want to do is make sure that you're protected. So when selling or renting a property, the ERP has to be given to the buyer or tenant by the owner or the mandated estate agent. So that would be you as the agent rather than Leggett as a whole, or by the seller directly. So that's one thing to be really clear on. So it gathers the mandatory diagnostics from the DPE, sanitation, and the diagnostics itself have to be submitted, obviously, on the day of signing. So when it comes to the legal side of things, what we're really clear now is that it's the seller or the agent has to provide this to the buyer or the tenant. And what it includes is really things related to, I suppose, essentially global warming. So we've had the DPE, the EPC in the UK come out sort of in the last sort of 10 years or so, that has now become a mandatory part of our marketing. I remember when that came out, it's like, oh gosh, something else to provide someone. Now we have this as well. So it's likely over the years, the government will continually sort of produce things like this. So what we're looking at in the contents is it replaces the original ESRIS, which was the old documentation. And this ERP now includes make sure we have a geotechnical survey report in there, soil pollution, and also it notes on the presence of radon as well. So I won't go into too much detail because all of these things are in the background. You don't necessarily need to know all of these. You just need to know what it contains and who to give it to and when. So the geotech survey basically looks at the plot of land. It includes information that's useful if it goes under construction. is particularly maybe relevant. I know we had a really, really hot summer last year, so already we are discussing things like when the clay solidifies, obviously after a drought, it can have structural issues with buildings. I think Corinne has put an email out that if there's anyone interested, we will be doing a course on fissures, so how to spot potential subsidence in properties, how to advise a client about these issues, and what should we do essentially if they come up. So when we're an agent, that's quite normal things that we're looking at when we are looking at a property, and information gathering at the very beginning when we're with the seller. So it all feeds into these elements that are generally part of our work practice and our professional knowledge anyway. So when do we need an ERP? So this again was a really, really good question. The ERP is mandatory when we're on anything of a seismic zone above a 2. So in France, almost the whole belt across the middle of France actually is a zone 1, and the top and the bottom is a zone 2 upwards. So half of France isn't in a zone 2 or above. It's radon level 3 or above, or it's any other zone that's the plan de prévention des risques naturels, etc. So it is possible to go online. I've got the website here for you, so you can jump on the website. Sorry, it's coming up in a slide in a moment. So you can jump on and actually check whether the property itself is in a particular zone. However, as a general rule of thumb, we would probably recommend providing the ERP to everyone just to be on the safe side. To find a property that doesn't have any risk at all is quite rare. So what do we class as a risk, or what does the government class as a risk? So it's avalanche, heat wave, volcanoes, earthquakes, fires, floods, drought, landslides. So I would say floods and drought are probably a little bit more common, particularly if they're by rivers. Fires, unfortunately, in the last sort of year or two, we've had some quite bad forest fires, so that might have changed the ratings of some properties. So because things are continuously changing in our particular region, in Centre, then we'll be looking at these. Obviously, Alps, Pyrenees, things like that, avalanches, etc., are a higher precedent. So we do have a few different things to think about. This is the website, so if you want to look at your properties, see what the risks might be, you can just jump on here, have a quick look. It will give you a good overview. I looked up my house, and we're above limestone cave, so that's exciting. So what are the obligations? As of the 1st of January, the ERP's got to be presented when viewing a property for sale or rent located in a zone affected by natural risk. So what does this mean? You need to basically provide it on your first viewing. So what is the most cost efficient, energy efficient way of us all doing this when you're doing your viewings? It's compulsory for the seller or their representative to inform the potential buyer at each stage of the sale. So that does begin with the advertising of the property. In reality, how is it used? So it verifies the risk zone. The ERP can then guide the future occupant or purchaser of the property status. So they might want to know, are we in a drought zone? Could subsidence be an issue in the future? Have we had high incidences of floods? When it comes to floodplains and things like that, when you're gathering that information and doing that discovery of the property with the seller, it's likely they will have mentioned, or you will have asked, have you had an insurance claims? Are you on a floodplain? So all of this information you're likely to be aware of anyway. It's just formalising our obligation in terms of relaying this information onto the buyer. So it's really essential that we do inform everyone of the perceived risks of the property. So obtaining the ERP, this again is a question that's come up, and it's a really important one. So legally, the drafting of an ERP diagnosis doesn't necessarily require any certification, and anyone can carry out this diagnosis. So it could be downloaded by the seller, you could do it yourself. However, as company policy, it really is best that you have a professional do it, as it adds that level of professional liability onto a third party. So we have had discussions with diagnostic technicians. They recommend they have that a diagnostic technician does it, of course. And prices have come in from around 20-25 euros upwards for the ERP report. So I would recommend, if you haven't already had contact or had discussions with the person that you use regularly, they would absolutely be able to advise you. They are the professionals, and really to absolve and protect your service, your fees. I would personally, we recommend that you do go through a third party to provide that documentation, so you can then confidently give it to a buyer knowing it's correct and it is covered by that professional. So the Environmental Code makes it mandatory now to provide that risk report. So from the first visit, and it's specified that it has to be updated or in date at the time of the signature of the promesse de vente, and make sure that the information is accurate. If it isn't, unfortunately, the ERP does expire every 6 months. So again, this adds another difficult conversation to have with the seller. So it's valid for 6 months. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't think a volcano can erupt and be discovered or be found by a property within 6 months, but it's to keep the documentation obviously in check, and making sure that the buyer or the tenant has the most up-to-date information. Floods could happen, I suppose, within that certain time, fire risk, etc. So in the absence of a risk or pollution report or an error of its content, the buyer can ask the courts to cancel the sale. So essentially, by providing this documentation that is in date, you're protecting your sale and protecting your fee, essentially. So in such cases, civil or criminal liability of the person responsible for the carrying out of the diagnostics is applicable. So this could be the owner or estate agent if you've provided or downloaded the report yourself. This is why we say it's best to go through a diagnostic expert, because we don't want you to be liable for anything that you shouldn't be liable for. For the sake of 20 to 25 euros for a diagnostic technician to provide this, it is unfortunately another cost that the seller will have to bear at the beginning of the process, but it really will protect you in terms of liability should anything be incorrect or anything go wrong at a later date. So the cost of the ERP, I did mention a few figures. That's from research that we've done. It definitely is worth you talking if you've got any close professional contacts with diagnostic experts. There is no legal limit on what a diagnostician can actually charge for the ERP, so it's worth getting a few quotes in, and it is part of the wider picture of the diagnostic report, so it shouldn't be at an extra cost. Whether you can negotiate and whether technicians are all working the same or slightly differently, you might be able to negotiate the ERP as part of the wider package that can then be sent over or done at a later date. The property you have might already have a diagnostic report, in which case you will already have the ERP. So it might be worth just checking through your portfolio of which ones have diagnostics, whether you've already got a copy of this paperwork. So how does this affect us in reality as an agent when you're having that conversation with a seller? Unfortunately, as professionals, we have to impart this excellent news. There is something else to pay for. Unfortunately, selling a property does involve costs. So this is something that the sellers will need to take into account as much as they're aware of the diagnostic report. It contains the ERP. At the very least, they will need that section, the ERP, when they go to market. So what's the best way of having this conversation? It's really an estimation stage, making them aware that to go to market, we have to have the DPE live on the advert within 4 weeks. We have a 4-week grace period, but the DPE is absolutely legally mandatory. And now we have the ERP that's mandatory as well to start viewings. How can we relay this information onto the buyer? So the ERPs can be quite long documents. I probably haven't owned a printer for about 8 years. So when I was a remote agent, I didn't print anything off. So we don't want you to waste lots of money on printer ink and paper and printing off copies for every single viewing you do. So the most money efficient, time efficient, and easiest way for you to relay this information is either print one copy for each property, and the copy can either be kept at the property. Even better, get the seller to print it and keep it at the property so it's there to show the buyer when you go and visit. You can either show a copy on a tablet. So we've already got agents who will bring this document up on their tablet. I have a Chromebook, which I used to use for everything, even my estimations, to show information. So you can show them this copy digitally, and then a belt and braces approach. If you're following up with your viewings every day at the end of the evening, great to see you earlier. Have you got any feedback on your viewing this morning? Here's a copy of the PDF of the ERP that I showed you in person on the appointment. So you can follow it up as long as it's on the same day of the viewing with a PDF copy as well. So there might be slight changes in your practices of how you follow up with people and when you present things, but hopefully we can incorporate it in a way that isn't too difficult for you to just start building into your normal communications. In support of this, I don't know how many people use the Bond de Visite, and some agents do on every property, some don't. The Bond de Visite, again, I know there's been conversation around the validity and the legal standing of the Bond de Visite. So I'm really happy just to talk through that quickly, just so you're a little bit clearer of how that helps us secure our fees and secure your sale. With the change in the ERP, we have updated the Bond de Visite in Hestia. So when you're generating that through Hestia, it now has a checkbox that the buyer can tick saying that I have looked and seen the ERP on this visit. So we have updated the Bond de Visite for you. As mentioned, if there's any doubt, do send a PDF version, because with an email, you've got a time and a date stamp as well. So should something come up in the future, you do have that documentation recorded. So it's quite a good way of making sure that they have had receipt of that. With regards to the Bond de Visite, if you are signing that on every single viewing, the key is really a Bond de Visite on its own for one viewing. If they then go to another agent or they go direct to seller, if the only piece of evidence of the viewing is that you've got a Bond de Visite, then no, it doesn't have a huge amount of legal standing. However, it's a really important piece of paperwork within a longer paperwork trail. So if you have email or text correspondence arranging the viewing, if you've emailed the seller and said Mr. and Mrs. Dupont are coming on Saturday, and you've given the seller the buyers and the viewers' names, you have the Bond de Visite, you followed up with feedback request afterwards, you've perhaps said, would you like to make an offer? When you have that catalogue of evidence around the viewing, then you're in a much better standing for the legal department. Should anything come up, we have a really good record that we can then go forward and say, we've had a really valid part of this viewing, negotiating and contact process with this person. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was comfortable with where the Bond de Visite sits in terms of that wider paper trail picture that can just hopefully build that picture that you're involved in that process and are liable for some of that commission because you've demonstrated your work. Key points to consider. So talk about necessary costs and legal steps to sell a home as early as possible with the seller. So prepare them. You might need to just start incorporating this into your estimation and mandating sales pitch. The ERP will be need to instructed and the report available for the first viewing. Print one copy to use in person or have the seller print it. And just make sure best practices, always sign a BDV if you can. It helps protect you. We love a paper trail. Evidence is key. So just to show you where the information is on, here we go. Oh, I don't think I've got the picture. So it's just a tick box on the final, on the Bond de Visite. There's just a tick box that has a section that the buyer can fill out essentially. And I can see that we've had some questions in chat. So let's have a look. So being able to sign it on a phone or tablet, that's certainly something that IT is looking at. For me, I think absolutely everything should be done on a phone, on any way that makes it as simple as possible for an agent to essentially complete that process. So we will certainly be chasing that up with IT, as Kevin mentioned. Has anyone got any other questions at all about the ERP?
I do, if
Yes.
I have, if I can. You're talking about the diagnostics that we usually use. You're talking
Yes.
about the website. I imagine that's the aerial website where you can do it yourself.
Yes.
I found a colleague of mine, of ours, recommended a website that actually acts as a diagnostiqueur and only does ERPs, does them for €15, seems to be certified. Is that something that we can use for the clients where we just see the big discussions coming and say, listen, I'd rather do it at my own fees than having to do 600,000 back and forth with the client?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the law, the legalities of it is that the seller can provide it. So if it's a case the seller wants to download that, provide that themselves, and they do then take that risk and ownership of that. So there will certainly be websites that you can download it from. It'll be much cheaper than using a diagnostic technician. We're kind of viewing it from, we just want to make sure that you guys are all safeguarded and providing the correct information. But if the seller turns around and says that's something that they want to take responsibility for, then by all means they are welcome to do that. There is that choice, and that's really clear in the legal.
No, it was more me that would go and to the website and
I
provide
see.
it for the complicated clients.
Yeah.
I was mostly wondering if that was also companies or maybe a website that head office can recommend in that way, because it can be a solution in some complicated cases, I think.
It is absolutely a solution. I mean, our policy is to have a third party do it just because it does safeguard you. But if you wanted to take that ownership and take that liability of providing it yourself, you absolutely can do. The responsibility lies on the seller or the mandated agent. So,
but it would be the
if
website providing it, no?
Pardon?
It would be the website providing it. They would act as a diagnosticator in that case.
Yeah, and if the website's correct and you're confident that the information's correct, then of course you can absolutely use it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all right. So we will certainly share all the websites. I will share that presentation with you. Is it quite clear about what the paperwork is, and do you feel sort of the solutions of maybe showing it on a tablet or having a copy there? Will that be sort of efficient for you guys? I know you're out in the field, you're very, very busy. You're going to have lots of different viewings, lots of different people. Is that sort of a simpler way for you to cope with that? Have you got any other ideas that you're already doing maybe, or you feel might be better?
Yeah, my concern, sorry, it's Alison here. My concern,
Hi, Alison.
My concern is the fact that the documents that we're being asked to share, ERP and DPE, have the client's personal details on them.
Yeah.
And the mandate states that legates will be data protecting our vendors.
Yeah.
And half the vendors that I've already spoken to are not aware of this law.
No, they won't be just yet. Yeah.
And they're not happy for me to share their documents with their addresses on and their names on with the clients. So
okay,
it's somewhere along the line. I know it's all happened very quickly, but I think somewhere along the line, the vendor brochure needs to be amended.
Yeah.
That we send out, how we market your property, to stipulate that this is a law and this is what has to be done.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how they can do it with all the vendors, but there has to be a standard letter that either we can send out or Legate can send out to all vendors telling them that this is a law that has to be done.
Yeah,
because
it's
not all vendors are at a property at a visit. Some of them have got holiday homes. So yes, it is down to us to have that document there ready for them, for the clients. But if the vendors are refusing the fact that we have to share that document, we're already hitting that brick wall.
Just out of interest, so when someone's arranging a viewing and coming to view a property, they will know the address. So what's the seller's objection in terms of them knowing the address?
Why would they know the address?
Because they'll be visiting the property.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So when we usually meet them beforehand at a said location.
Yeah.
On the odd occasion, we meet them directly at the address.
Yeah.
I just think it's the case of that it's got their name on it and etc. on it, and that's the problem I've had with my vendors at the moment.
Okay.
They don't want their documents handed over. I've done it in the past before this rule came in.
Yeah.
I had to say to the vendors, look, they're very, very interested. They want to see the diagnostic reports. Can I have your permission to send them?
Yeah.
And they agree to that, but obviously they agree to it on the fact that the buyer does not share it with anybody else.
Of course, yeah, so, absolutely.
And that's the same thing I've got now with the ERP DPE.
Yeah.
They're not happy that I'm sharing it with clients who might just not be interested.
Okay. It'll be interesting to discover what they're concerned in terms of them. If they wanted their name redacted, unfortunately, because the property, the ERP is directly related to that property and that structure, that the address does need to be on the ERP, because the buyer will need to see that this DPE or this ERP is literally for this property. So it could be a case maybe they could have their name redacted, but I'd be curious to find out what they're concerned that will happen because if the process is to go sort of down the line, when you have a bond de visite, often you might have the seller's name, you're signing saying that you've viewed a property. Likewise, the seller will probably have the buyer's name on the bond de visite. So that sharing of information is just part of the viewing and the sales process. So we would be more than happy to put a document together to explain why this is a legal requirement. The government's put it in place. There needs to be the ability for the buyer to know the address of the property that they're visiting and the fact that the legal paperwork matches that address essentially. If it's pre-viewing, of course, you don't want to give the address out. We absolutely understand that. So you might want to redact the address and name prior to the viewing if they want to see the ERP ahead of the property visit. But once you're in the property with a paper copy, they don't necessarily even have to take it away. If the sellers do have an issue, you can maybe just show them so they can sit and read it. They can still tick the bond de visite saying that they've read it, but you don't necessarily have to send a PDF or give them any hard copy, if that makes sense. It's more that they've had a visual of it.
Well, I think there needs to be something written into the mandate. That this is what has to happen.
Absolutely,
and obviously, like you say, the vendors do need to be made aware. I've actually got a visit this afternoon on a property, and I've got the same problem there. I've asked them, because the buyers are coming from a long way, they wanted to see documents beforehand. She won't allow me to share them. Well, fortunately, they're doing the visit, and she said they can see them when they get here. But she won't let me she won't let me give them copies of any documents at this stage.
Okay. Interesting. And did you say why she's sorry, go on, Kevin.
There's quite a lot of apps and websites. I'll have a look and I'll send them out where you can just upload a PDF and you can just edit it and blank out an address and then just resave it.
Yeah, I can do that, Kevin. That's not a problem. And I think that's probably the way around it. It's just that it's an issue that needs to be addressed so that we don't have that problem.
No, I understand. And are the sellers concerned that it's their address and name associated to the property, or are they concerned perhaps in a diagnostic report, maybe there's something in there that will put a buyer off? Do you know where the hesitancy comes from? Oh, Alison? No, I think she's gone. Okay, that's a really interesting topic, and obviously if you do start coming across these sorts of issues, please do let us know. It's really easy for us to put a PDF newsletter together with maybe legal updates. We can send out to all the vendors. We can make it really, really simple, very much like TrackFan, anti-money laundering, having to ask for proof of funds, things like that. These are all sort of legal requirements that as part of a financial service industry that we are in, we do have these obligations. So we of course want to make it as easy as possible for you. So any other questions, please do pop it in the chat.
Leanne, let's find out if it is if it is legal for us to send out a copy of the DP or the ERP or whatever with the address redacted. If the vendors are happy for us to do that, because we're basically kind of changing official documents. Is that allowed? I mean, I've done it before,
what you can certainly do it prior to a visit, but on the actual viewing itself, they will need to see that the address is there and it does correlate. So a way around that could be to show them a paper copy in person, so they can see that it matches the report that they were sent, essentially. So
we're not breaking any laws by redacting names and addresses out of official.
No, not prior, because that information legally isn't required before the viewing, essentially. As long as on the day that they view, they do see sight that it is that correct document for that correct property, that's fine. But prior to that, there isn't any legal requirement to provide them with that information, essentially. So, okay. Any other questions? You can certainly. Alison, are you okay? Did you have any other questions?
Yeah, no, I got cut off. My internet's on. This morning. But no, that's okay. That's okay. If I have any other further questions, I'll get back to you.
And we'll certainly work on something, because there's nothing worse than trying to have these new conversations with sellers when they aren't expecting it. And you're going to find both sellers and buyers will not be aware of this change either. So we have to remember we're probably showing them something they're not expecting to see either. So we will certainly work out the best way that you can present both parties with this extra information. Okay.
Well, yes, also, sorry, just take into consideration, we've still got agents that don't speak English, and we've still got agents that don't speak French.
Yep.
So those vendor brochures are very important to them when they're doing a mandate, and it has to have something in that vendor brochure about this DPE and ERP.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always do all of the brochures both in English and French. So
Excellent.
there'll be that option. Yeah. Excellent. So if we're happy with that, I can move on to my favorite topic in the whole world, floor plans. Right, let me just open up the presentation. Okay, let's have a quick look. So just check that it's just loading. Does anyone use floor plans at all at the moment, or have they thought about it?
Yes, a lot.
Excellent.
Use a lot, but I don't use Floorplanner.
Okay.
And
What system do you use out of interest?
I use a Magic Planner, and the reason for that is that Floorplanner doesn't have an app.
Okay.
The issue that I encountered with that and with taking measurements myself is that they on older houses rarely add up.
Okay.
So you go around the house and you go into the next room and you find out that the measurements, because the house is not straight,
They're all unusual shapes. Yeah.
Yeah, and doing that on Floorplanner, unfortunately, I wasn't able to address that, so I needed another tool to do that on. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. So let's have a quick look. There we go. So is that presentation showing on the whole screen? Can you see that presentation?
Yes.
Well, perfect. So there's me. If you ever need anything, just leanne.pear@leggett.fr if you need me. So there we go. So have you ever been asked for a floor plan from a buyer? Do many people get asked for floor plans?
Regularly,
No.
yeah.
Regularly, yes. I think I would say one of the biggest requests that come in is, do you have a floor plan and do you have more photographs? So really, it's something that buyers always want. In the international markets, absolutely standard. As mentioned, I did a floor plan for every single property I put on the market. In fact, I couldn't put a property on the market without a floor plan. It was really part of the standard marketing. So I got really used to, I got trained in it, and then I got really used to, as I was going around taking my photographs, do a quick hand-drawn sketch of the property, measure up, and then I would digitize all the plans before launching it onto the market. So it's just something that, particularly in international market, they really like to be able to see what they're looking at. And exactly as you mentioned, there are so many weird and wonderful shaped houses in France. It's really, really difficult to tell what you're looking at without a floor plan. So fundamentally, what should a floor plan contain? Room dimensions. So I know that we all measure up for square meterage at the moment. What it's good is you can actually see the dimensions of the rooms themselves. I always include doors and windows, so we can see that's bifold, normal door there. Always include the orientation arrow, so work out where south is, because people like to know garden north, south facing, where's the balcony looking, what colour shall I paint the breakfast room if it's east facing, and then basic fixtures and fittings. So I always include the kitchen and the bathroom. You can add furniture, but as a very basic kitchen and bathroom, because people like to know where the water services are, gas, electricity, and of course if it's a renovation project, people like to be able to see what can they start changing within that space. So they're really, really important to have an overview of a property. From a buyer's perspective, can't say it's perspective, it allows the buyer to see the dimensions and space. 64% of home buyers are interested in viewing floor plans. Floor plans tend to be clicked on 7.5 times more frequently than maps. An advert including a floor plan can reduce the time on the market by 50%. The last two are international market stats from Rightmove, because they're used routinely in the UK. So 1 in 5 buyers will ignore a listing if it doesn't have a floor plan, and 1 in 10 buyers won't arrange a viewing if they don't see a floor plan. So although that's not applicable in France, what it does show you is that when they are available as a standard piece of marketing, how important they are to potential buyers. Seller's perspective, do your competitor agencies use floor plans? Some will, some won't. They're certainly not completely standard here. So does this give a point for your seller to choose you over a competitor agency? In a difficult market, it can be important to provide a high quality of service. So by being able to offer a floor plan, a seller will certainly find that attractive. It means you can justify your commission and fees by offering more. So by including it as part of your standard service, instead of just taking beautiful photographs, you can say, I also include a floor plan. The The floor plans do include 3D floor plans as part of that, so I'll go into that in a moment. And all of that then starts beginning to justify why, if you're in an area that maybe the commissions are a little bit higher, or you're trying to negotiate retaining a certain percentage, it means you have that service level behind you to back up your fees. It sells quicker, the property will sell quicker, and it demonstrates professionalism, skills, and knowledge as well. Essentially, when it comes to including a floor plan, what you will find is I'm sure you've all had experience of buying in France, but when I was here, I looked at probably about 15 to 20 properties over a weekend, and I think I probably wouldn't have seen 2/3 of them if I'd had a floor plan. So what you might find is buyers will make a decision whether a property is suitable or not on a floor plan. So you may have fewer viewings on a property. However, the people that do go to see the property with a floor plan are more likely to put an offer in because they've probably already looked at it and thought, yes, this actually closer matches my requirements. So when I was in the high street, I had a salary, I didn't really mind doing, I just went out, did lots of viewings, said to my boss, excellent, full day of viewings today. It didn't matter, I was being paid to do it. But as soon as I went into self-employed agency, I wanted to make sure that everyone I took around, every single house, was the most likely person to come and put an offer in on the property. So you will feel that there might be a slight change in volume of viewings if you have a floor plan, but you are more likely to sell the property with those viewers that do go to look. So from an agent perspective, so it gives you confidence in your service. It might help you win an exclusive mandate over a Mandat sampler or whatever they're now changing the names to. So you can use that to really push whichever mandate that you want to push. It can save you time. Time is money. You don't want to waste your time doing endless viewings with people who might not be suitable for the property if they'd had a floor plan. It's excellent to upskill. It helps you remember. So whenever I've had to cover viewings for colleagues in the past, and I have absolutely no idea where any room in the house is, I have used floor plans to navigate whilst I'm showing someone around the property. So instead of opening a door into a cupboard, I actually know it's the kitchen or whatever it might be. And it can really, really complement the remote viewing package as well. So if you are standardly doing video tours, if you've got international clients, if they want all of this information, it sits perfectly within that viewing package. So the big question is would you use it for every property or would you just use it for select ones? Have any of you got any thoughts on this at all? Or do you feel you'd use it for all of it or maybe just exclusives? Okay, if you don't have any thoughts. It's a good thing to think.
I did it for exclusive only. At the beginning, I did it for everybody as a benefit, but it was very, very, very time consuming.
Of course, yeah.
Especially on bigger properties. So
absolutely, yeah. I think sort of striking a balance between the two because you want to be time efficient. So as you mentioned, I think maybe using it for exclusives as standard is probably quite good. You may want to, whilst you're measuring up, do a hand-drawn plan and measure. So you've got the paperwork to do it. And then if at a later date you have a Mandat sampler or it switches into an exclusive, or you have someone coming from America that desperately needs a floor plan and will view with you, maybe we'll sign a Mandat de Recherche and only use you if it's on multi-agent and then says, look, I really need a floor plan. You can then just digitize it as and when you need it. So it's completely up to you how you run your business. You might feel that you want to do it for everyone or only select ones. So you've got that flexibility to choose. So where do you find the floor planners? Under your business section, there's some more information. In a nutshell, your floor planner account is free. Everyone has access to it. If you want it, just email it@legit.fr. They will open your account for you. Your login will simply be your Legit email and they will give you a password. So you can go straight onto it. What I would say is I'm happy to do videos. So if you want a little bit of help in how to use the software, Floorplanner for me is really, really comprehensive. It's some of the best software that I've used. MetroPix that I used in the UK was really simple compared to this software. However, because it's so complicated, I've had to go in and I've stripped out a lot of unnecessary features. So I've taken the software back to basics. So what I'm able to do is if you want face-to-face training and there's teams of 10 people that I can come up and visit you guys, we can go through it. I can show you how to do hand draw plans. So we will measure up the rooms that we're in, draw it by hand, where to measure, go through, set up a floor planner. So take all the bits out that we don't need, how to digitize the hand-drawn plan, how to add fixtures, features, bathroom, kitchen, north arrow, whatever you might need. And at the end, I show you how to make it a 3D model as well, which is just a flick of a button. So it isn't any extra work. If that is something that you're interested in doing, I can do it by video over sort of an hour, or if you've got obligatory training hours that you need to fulfill, unfortunately everyone has to do some each year. If you do have any time left and you feel that there might be something that's really useful to your business, then I can do it as obligatory training, and it will come off your hours that are owed, essentially. So let me know, get in touch. I've got one saying yes please already. This is very exciting. Do let me know, let Kevin know, and then we can organise teams, and I'm more than happy to come up. So as I mentioned, happy to do a Visio. I can't come all the way up face to face if it's not obligatory, but I can do it on Visio. And then if you do want that training to count towards your hours, by the end of it, you'll be really efficient in it. Once you're practiced in doing floor plans, I would certainly say you can probably get them done in 15-20 minutes. We're not talking about hours of sitting at a computer. They're really quick, they're really simple. Depending how big the property is, obviously if it's 10 bedrooms, it'll take a bit longer. What's also quite nice is with the 3D, after the training as well, I'll also do a webinar so I can problem solve. What I also like to do is on the face-to-face training, if you do have any properties that you wish to digitize, so I can copy diagnostic reports, I can copy other agents' plans, just copy them, it's fine. There is a function on Floor Planner where you can upload a PDF in the background and you can essentially draw over it, so we can get the scale and we can just copy other documents. So you might have an architect plan, diagnostic, or another agency. I have done that for someone so we could get rid of the watermark. So it's about just using the documentation that we have in a clever way. So this is what the 3D image looks like. I have probably redesigned my basement a million times with this software. So practice on your own home. If you're converting a barn or a garage, I had one agent who designed her whole garage in 3D after just the one day of training, and she wasn't particularly tech savvy, and she was absolutely delighted that what she achieved putting furniture in and things like that. You may as well use it and enjoy the software as well. So this is what the Floor Planner 3D looks like that you can achieve at the end of it. However, we will concentrate purely on creating the most basic 2D simple line drawings so you can just get them done quickly, efficiently for marketing. Then you can always hold the 3D card up your sleeve. If you have an exclusive, maybe viewings are a little bit slow, you need to have that motivating conversation with the seller. I know Mr. or Mrs. Seller, let me do a 3D image for you. We'll see if we can get the marketing boosted a bit. So it's a really useful strategic tool to keep up your sleeve. And I think it's sort of a fundamental part of a bit of a geek, but one of the best parts of being an agent is doing floor plans. So I can see that we've got a couple of questions. So teams of 10. If we've got more than 10, then we maybe do teams of 7 and 7, or 10 and 10 if there's 20 people. There's no limit on how many people. The reason it needs to be 10 is because I'm walking around and I'm working with people on the software. So if people have different questions and different things they need at different times, then it means I've got the ability to talk to everyone and make sure that the software is really sitting well with people. So that's my little floor plan presentation. If you've got any questions, please go ahead. As you can see, I'm quite passionate about it. Has anyone got any questions about the floor planning at all? Do we feel it might be helpful just as an extra skill?
Well, I have one.
Yes, of course, William.
I've been wondering quite a bit about the legal implications of this, because you supply information.
Mm-hmm.
Older houses, they're often wrong. Like you cannot the different numbers between a diagnosticer and a third party that will do it is always there. What if you one day have a client that is quite aggressive with these things, which we sometimes
Sure.
are reliable for being a couple of centimeters off on a room, or?
No, fortunately not, because there is a little disclaimer in all the floor plans that say this is just a visual representation. So don't buy your carpet off it, don't measure your bathroom off it. No, it really is just an additional piece of marketing. We're not creating architect's drawings, so they can be pretty precise. To be honest, you could go down to the mill on these in precision. However, that's not the function. The function really is for a buyer to see where's the toilet next to the living room, or is it next to the kitchen. It very much is just a plan to show the layout of the house, so we don't have to worry about it being too precise. And roughly, is it a 4 meter by 6 meter room or not? So there's ways of changing the numbers, making sure that we're as accurate as we can be, but by no means is it a legal representation of the exact measurements of the house. And it does have on every plan that disclaimer.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And what I find quite good with floor plans as well is if you have something that someone would like as a holiday let. So for selling, I would just do a basic plan with the rooms, kitchen, bathroom. For holiday lets, you can start adding furniture. So you could say to buyers, look, if you're concerned, if it's an empty barn you're thinking of renovating, there's no reason that you can't take that space and start being creative and say, look, this is what you could do with the space if it's not renovated. It depends how much time and energy you want to invest in something and whether the sale is worth it. So you can go from the bare basics of just a really simple 2D. If you think it's a rundown house that's got amazing potential, you might want to jazz it up a little bit so buyers can see the potential, because not every buyer can when they're walking around the property. So it's one of those pieces of equipment that you can just use however you feel best to either win the mandate or get the property sold at the end of the day. So, or renovate your own house with. You can do whatever you want. So quite good. Does anyone get any other questions at all? No. Okay. What I will do then, if Kevin, you're happy, if people are interested in this, just pop your names down. With Kevin, I can then liaise with Kevin. We'll work out some dates. That'll be good. Depending on the group size, then I can come up. We'll get a sort of a function room somewhere where we can all sort of plug in. We'll do the presentation. We'll do the measuring up, and then I can show you how to use the software as well. And then afterwards, I'll provide the after support whilst you're getting used to it. And also, we can then work on anything that you need digitizing straight away. Okay.
I think the best thing would be if people who want to have a go with it, get themselves registered on the site, like Leanne said.
Yeah.
Have a little play with the software. There's a few videos on the resources, which I'll send you the link for as well.
Yeah.
Which kind of will talk you through the basics of it. And then once you've done that, if you want to kind of go a bit further, then let me know and we'll put together like a training thing.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't get started straight away. So just email IT. As Kevin said, there's some videos that Andrew Morgan has done. I've changed the settings slightly on that, but definitely look at the resources site. Floorplanner itself has an excellent YouTube channel. I love the trainer. He's really, really good. And every time they have any new releases, they always do a webinar, a live webinar as well. So look at the YouTube. If you're tech savvy or you're comfortable with it, or you've already used Floorplanner in the past, you probably could pick it up with no problem. But I am here if you do need any added support. But by all means, I would log in, have a go, measure up your house, try and draw it. And then if you feel that you need extra support or you just need to get your obligatory hours done, let me know and I'll come up and we'll do a formal session.
I think it's really important. I think the key things, like Leanne says, is the amount of time that will save you on wasted viewings with people coming to see houses that aren't suitable for them. The ability to kind of parlay it into getting exclusive mandates, because we're offering a service that 90% of other agents don't offer. And the other thing I'd like people to start doing a lot more is kind of remote viewings. If you've got a floor plan and a 3D view and a video and good photos, then you can sit on the computer and talk somebody through a house without actually having to meet them, and more importantly, having to spend all that money on petrol at the moment. So.
Absolutely. And I think with COVID, sort of the remote viewings, people are so much more used to doing them now. And I think particularly in France, where properties can be so far apart and petrol's so expensive at the minute, if there's ways that you guys can run your business more efficiently, time-wise and things like that, and more efficiently for buyers, they might not want to travel hours to get to a property if they know it's probably not suitable. So it's actually providing a better service to the potential buyer as well. So as Kevin mentioned, I think it's just a really good package of remote viewings options for them.
Could we all get locked down with this bird flu?
Exactly. You can carry on all your viewings. You can make those sales from your house. Wonderful. Well, it's been really
Brilliant.
nice
Thanks,
to e-meet everyone that I've not met before. And yeah, if you need anything, just drop me an email, but I'll be liaising with Kevin over this. Okay.
I've got the list. I've got the list of everyone who's put their name in the chat, and if anyone else wants to have their name put down, drop me an email and I'll collate a list together.
Yeah, and likewise, because I know you're videoing. If someone watches after this on the video, then they can just get in touch with you.
Okay, and I'll send the video out once I've kind of uploaded it and the links on the resources site to the videos for the training.
Brilliant.
Mark, thank you.
Thank you
Leanne.
so much. Take care. Have a lovely weekend, everyone, when you get there.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
So, does anyone have any other questions for me or for anyone else? Anything they want to talk about? I'm sorry for all the kind of complete chaos over this bloody exclusive mandate stuff, but hopefully we're getting to some kind of resolution over that shortly. But yeah, we'll see. Anyone got anything else? No?
I just wanted to say sorry for being late. I did a viewing yesterday morning and they rang me this morning saying before they left, could they go do a second viewing? So that's why I'm late. I'm now sat in the car park of the supermarket.
Okay, that is acceptable as an excuse.
Thank you.
Jolly good. All right. Anyone else? No? Okay, good. I know everyone's kind of busy, so I'll let everyone go. If you've got anything you want to ask, drop me an email, give me a call, let me know, and we'll kind of crack on from here. All right.
Yeah, Kevin, sorry, quick one, Kevin. You cancelled the training meeting. Have you thought about reorganising it?
Cancelled the what?
Not the training, the team meeting.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'm probably going to do it after things become a little bit clearer around this exclusive mandate, and then we can kind of discuss it then.
Okay.
That makes more sense, I think. Okay, anyone else? And anyone who hasn't filled in the exciting summer party spreadsheet, do so quickly or you won't be allowed to come. Because if I don't book it fairly soon, then I'm not going to be able to find anywhere to book. So we'll have to do it in September instead of June. So. All right. Thank you. Okay. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.